You know how much this channel loves good news, so I'm going to start off with some good news that has very little to do with the financial world, but this just in from Mario Nawfal. He says, Trump is always right. Mexican cartel reels. Trump quoting the New York Times with a triumphant, Trump is always right. The New York Times reports Mexico's crackdown is hitting Sinaloa cartel hard. Arrests, drug bust, and lab shutdowns have the cartel on the ropes. Some leaders are even scaling back fentanyl production in Sinaloa, their main turf, with one hiding out and another scrambling to shield its family from potential U.S. military strikes. Trump's pressure is paying off big time, and he's loving the headline. Cartel bosses are running scared. Is this the beginning of the end for the Sinola's reign? I don't know, but there you go. I don't know if it's even true. But it's worth telling. Mario Nawfal, he's a fairly, I would say, careful reporter. Markets are down today with very, very slight miss on PCE. I mean, a very slight miss on PCE. It was up a little bit compared to expectations. But they're missing the much larger picture. Real income picked up huge again, 2 months in a row, with the folks seeing huge income increases and only spending about half of that increase. Bond markets seem to be seeing that, what I'm seeing, and the headlines, as opposed to the hot headline. All the headlines are about the hot PCE. It wasn't that hot. And the other information is really much more important. Not only that, no one else is talking this morning about Elon saying that it's 120 days, that it's the 120 days that he alluded to is still in place. He expects Doge to hit the $1 trillion target within that 120 days, and we are now 60 days into that effort. So we're more than, about 60 days. But anyway, roughly 60 days. So Elon should be back 100%, so to speak, on the job in another 60 days. You will also not see this auto analysis. This new tariff analysis I'm going to do right now is even different than last night. It's based on the latest understanding of how they work. I encourage you to bookmark this to see if this channel had it 100% right and everybody else got it completely wrong. And I mean, seriously, got it completely wrong. Even last night's episode with Brian Wright was incorrect in several regards. I'm sorry for that. I apologize. But I've spent hours since that time becoming better informed, and almost all of mainstream media is incorrect about how things are going to work. And pretty much all of them are, everybody in our community is even more wrong about how they're going to work. So let me give it to you exactly when I say, listen, so many things could change. I'm going to be giving it to you based on what we know right now, okay? Not based on what might change next week. Obviously, they could decide to make them 12% tariffs instead of 25% tariffs, and that would change things. But I'm going to give it to you right now based on what we know. So on NBC this morning, Peter Navarro, obviously an auto expert, says that 19% of the engines, only 19% of all the engines are made in the United States. This is what I think is really concerning the president. And that's what Navarro says, which is what I've been saying for a very, very long time. What we're talking about here is national security. If we don't make the engines and the transmissions in the United States, it doesn't matter how good we are at assembling the final product. So we need to bring back the industrial base of the things that we need for the economic and military strategic benefit of the United States. If we don't do that, then we're missing it. This also has the added advantage of helping the middle class to have higher wages that they get from being in the industrial area rather than a services area. In manufacturing things always pays higher wages than the low and middle range of the paychecks in the service industries. Navarro believes it will be much faster, that this changeover will be much faster than people think because the auto industry is only running at 60% capacity, leaving a potential increase of 25 to 30% with minor investments in new capex to get manufacturing moved back into the United States. This is 100% true. 60% capacity is a horrible level not profitable for these companies. And I think this is, again, why they're not screaming and yelling. I think they see if with the tariffs, with this approach, they can get back into manufacturing in the United States, which will be better for them in the long run. Navarro is calling it the golden age, the gold rush, even the gold rush for the auto industries. Who can make this transition the fastest? Who's going to be the best at making this transition is really what's going to be important. And it's not just about the big two actual US manufacturers plus Tesla. It's going to be about all of them. It's going to be about the Hondas and the Toyotas and the Hyundais and everybody else that have plants in the United States. How fast can they get the rest of these parts, or at least the vast majority, made in the US? Now, Tesla is likely to be the huge winner. I think likely, I would say they're 100% going to be the biggest winner in this basic auto gold rush that Navarro describes. This is because Tesla is genius at manufacturing and supply chain, and it will be much faster at making these adjustments. This is just a fact. You know it's a fact. Everybody knows it's a fact. But in particular, Tesla has been moving fast to make all their batteries in the United States, and the drivetrain, the engine, the transmission, etc., and the wiring harnesses are the biggest deal in terms of the costs that are currently being imported. So this will mean that the main issue for ICE cars, we'll be getting those engines and transmissions back in the US, or finding ways to make them a lot cheaper if they're going to continue to buy them from Japan, from South Korea, from etc. So you have to take into consideration that this is 25% on those parts wherever they're made and wherever they're final assembled. So if you have a vehicle that is being made in Mexico, and that is made with 50% US parts, well, then the tariff is only on the 50% that isn't made in Mexico. If you make the same car and you final assemble it in the United States and 50% of the parts were made elsewhere, then you still have a tariff on 50%. So the reality is it doesn't matter where the final assembly is. What matters is the total componentry, the tariffs on that total componentry. So when you take that into consideration, already Tesla will be miles ahead of any of these other companies because they make the most US made cars, period. It's not even close. Tesla, sometimes 70, 80% of the cars made in the United States is made with US parts and et cetera. So, and again, the battery being the biggest part that's being made outside the country. Now, I'm sorry, we're going to take this another level now. The real cost of the tariff on the foreign cars is much lower, as it is based only on the percent of non-US content. So instead of being 25%, we're really talking about closer to 12%. Okay, say it's 50% either way, whether it's coming in from Mexico as a complete product, or whether it's being made in the United States and it's using 50% imported parts. So the real tariff impact here is about 12.5%. Now, you've been listening to my channel, then you know that it's not going to end up being 12.5%, because these companies are already making these adjustments. They're doing things to mitigate. They've purchased the parts ahead of time, and they've built up huge supplies, probably 3, 4, 5, 6 months on these parts that are going to be hit by the tariffs. And now they are mitigating. They are going to their suppliers and beating them up, beating them to death to get the costs down. They're going to the governments and seeing if the governments will provide subsidies. And they are deciding to move manufacturing of those parts into the United States. And they're doing this at a rapid clip. And this is why Navarro is calling it a gold rush, is the ones that do that the best are going to be the ones that are going to have the best benefit. So all car companies who have known something like this is coming for a long time, they have been planning for this. So they asked for an extra month. Okay, they got the extra month. Some are saying that the overall impact of these tariffs will be about a 10% increase in the landed cost of cars in general. And that increase will go down as this mitigation takes place. You're also maybe going to see the companies changing a little bit about what they're selling in because they know they've got to hit certain price points. So you might see a few goodies coming out of some of these cars in order to get the cost down as well. Now, what about the impact on the Treasury? Well, the impact on the Treasury is likely to be about $75 billion, more or less, in terms of additional income from these tariffs. Now, mitigation is going to lower that amount, that 75 billion over time. But what's going to happen while that's happening? As they bring more and more parts manufacturing in the United States, that's going to be made more and better jobs and people making more money. That will increase the tax base. And so you'll see increases in the overall amounts going to Treasury because of that, as well as a more vibrant economy and strategically stronger, both economically and from a military standpoint. So all of this is a brilliant move by the president. Should have been done 20 years ago. And we'll see how history takes a look at this. But I also want you to take a look at this 6 months from now and find out that I gave you by far the best analysis of what's taking place, and that all of the other people that you're listening to, unfortunately, are talking about 25% increases in the final cost of the car. That is not going to happen. It's not going to be close to 25%. Maybe we'll see some price increases around 10%, but apparently the president has told the manufacturers, I don't want to see any price increases. Now, that sounds like price fixing, but it's not because, there's no actual law that's been written or anything else. This is called bully pulpit. I love the bully pulpit aspect of the presidency. I believe that the president learned about the bully pulpit in his first term. You may have heard me talk about this before, when he initially said there was nothing that he could do about the high oil prices. And then 2 weeks later, you saw him going out and making Trumpian type statements to the oil industry about getting the prices down and about the things he was going to do if they didn't, which were, like going to the strategic oil reserves, et cetera. And guess what? The price of oil dropped crazy. The price of gasoline went down crazy. And that was part of the reason for the huge success of the Trump administration the first time around. Now, the price of oil is starting to creep up again. I would not be surprised to hear the president come out with another declaration in order to keep these oil and gas prices down. All right. Having said all of that, this is Randy Kirk. If you believe anything that I said up there and you think that it is better than what the other guys are saying, please hit the like button. If you didn't think it was better than what other people are saying, hit the like button anyway. It helps the algo, and I'm just a nice guy. Anyway, and then you could also, I appreciate just the fact you watch and that you support me. That is fantastic. I do now offer memberships here on YouTube. You can join as a member, and that will help support the channel in addition to Patreon, etc. All right. Later on today, it'll be Larry Goldberg as always, and then probably Brian White, but it might be either be Brian tonight or Brian in the morning. Otherwise, it will be Phil Beisel. Very exciting thing that we're putting together. I think you'll like it. All right. Any fair-minded person watching Elon's Doge team last night on the Bret Baier show, where he interviewed about 10 members, roughly, of the Doge team, would come away struck by the fraud, waste, and abuse that they have already uncovered, and the details that they were able to give of how some of these frauds work. And that was just a sampling. It was just a few ideas of the things that they're finding. We also already know about some of the things at USAID that they aren't even talking about anymore because they've moved on from that. That's been solved. So those who are, you would also come away struck by the caliber of the people that were on that team. These are top folks, and by the sacrifice that they're making, they're willingly doing as a give back to the United States of America because of their success in business. Now, those who are screeching about this activity won't watch it, of course. And if they watch it, they'll just dismiss it. But if you watched it, if you didn't watch it, you should watch it. And if you watched it, let me know in the comments below, were you struck by the quality of the people and the quality of what they've learned and the hope and expectation that it should give every American that we're going to get this thing under control, and that to the extent that we don't, it's a real problem. The sad part is, for those who in the crowd who listening right now who might support Democrats, it's proving that the Democrat leadership is just absolutely lying about what's happening with the Doge Group. It's just, they're just lying about it completely, demagoguing it in a horrible way, and it's sad. Annual inflation in the United States, as measured by the change in personal consumption expenditures index, held steady at 2.5% in February, the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis reported on Friday. This reading matched the market expectations and also the January reading. The core PCE price index, which excludes volatile food and energy prices, increased 2.8% on a yearly basis, above analysts' forecast and January's increase of 2.7, which is the huge, horrible, hot that you're seeing in the headlines, is that the core was off by 0.1%. On a monthly basis, the PCE price increase and core PCE price increase rose 0.3 and 0.4% respectively, all within expectations. Now, here's the important part. Here's the part that nobody's paying attention to, except, I believe, the bond industry. Personal income increased 194.7 billion, or 0.8% on a monthly basis in February. Man. Disposable personal income less personal current taxes, increased by 0.9%, and personal consumption expenditures increased only 0.4%. This is 2 months in a row of these huge increases in income and only minor increases in spending, although good, solid increases in spending, meaning people are still out there spending. This is good for the economy, but better than that, it's great for the folks because they got more money in their pocket at the end of the month. Personal outlays, the sum of PCE, personal interest payments, and personal current transfer payments, increased by 118.4 billion in February. Personal savings was 1.02 trillion in February, and the personal savings rate as a percentage of disposable personal income was 4.6%, which is a solid number. The increase in current dollar personal income in February primarily reflected increases in personal current transfer receipts and compensation. The 87.8 billion increase in current dollar PCE in February reflected increases of 56.3 billion in spending for goods and 31.5 billion in spending for services. This is really good news that you're starting to see the folks buying goods. Remember, about 70% of the total the total GDP is services, and only about 30% is goods, and yet you're seeing the reverse of that in terms of the increases last month. This is the switch I've been looking for, waiting for. This is where we may be beginning to see improvements in manufacturing, maybe improvements in people buying durable goods. Very, very good. This is exciting and extremely good news. Also last night, the NAR, the National Association of Realtors, forecast monthly mortgage rates will average about 6.4% this year. That might be right. I think they're going to be coming down faster than I think will be in the fives, maybe by summer. Existing home sales will increase by 6%. Existing home sales will increase by 6%. New home sales will improve by 10%. And the national median home price will rise by 3% in 2025. Those are all outstanding numbers. If that happens, I mean, that's like Randy optimism right there, boy. And that's the National Association of Realtors. Pending home sales in February augmented 2%. Compared to 1 month ago, pending home sales declined in the Northeast and West, while the Midwest and especially the South underwent increases. Year over year, contract signings declined in all 4 U.S. regions, and the Midwest showed the biggest decline. This will all switch around now. You'll see, because we're back in season. Okay, this is just breaking before I came on. Consumer sentiment confirmed its early month reading and fell for the third straight month, plummeting 12% from February. The expectations index plunged at a precipitous 18% and now lost more than 30% since November. This month's decline reflects a clear consensus across all demographic and political affiliations. Republicans joined independents and Democrats in expressing worrying expectations since February for their personal finances, business conditions, unemployment, and inflation. Consumers continue to worry about the potential for pain amid ongoing economic policy developments. Notably, two-thirds of consumers expect unemployment to rise in the year ahead. This is the highest reading since 2009. This trend reveals a key vulnerability for consumers, given that strong labor markets and incomes have been the primary source of strength supporting consumer spending in recent years. No, it's been the U.S. government pumping. This is complete miss. This is why these people drive me crazy, is because, okay, I'll take your numbers in terms of what you got, but your analysis stinks. What you're now seeing is what you want is you have consumers who are making money in their various occupations, and then they're spending less than the increases that they're getting. Year ahead inflation expectations jumped up from 4.3% to 5%, the highest reading since November, marking 3 consecutive months of unusual large increases. This is because people are worried about these tariffs, and they're a little bit shook up about all the chaos that's going on. Long-range inflation expectations surged from 3.5 to 4.1% in March, reflecting from a large surge among independents, plus a sizable rise among Republicans. Here, as is the case for other measures from the surveys of consumers, aggregate trends are driven by and align closely with the views of the independents and not those swung by the polarization of the two parties. All right, so the folks believe that we might be in for some inflation. They are incorrect because they don't understand inflation. What they're saying here is they're expecting price increases, and there might be price increases, and we might see transitory inflation. I don't think you're going to see that. When you look at the housing price expectation going up only 3% this year, as opposed to 6, 5, 4 in previous years, that is going to hit the overall inflation numbers really hard. Gasoline and oil are under control, and I believe going down. I think we're going to see a solid year, and the tariffs are not going to be as dramatic as anybody thinks. So where are markets now after all of that? And you will see that the Dow Jones is down 1.18% because they're worried about that headline number. The NASDAQ is down almost 1.92%. S&P is down 1.41%, and Tesla is down 3.48%, right in the normal for it in terms of the delta. All of the Mag 7 are down. Pretty much in the ranges that you would anticipate. Amazon down 3.37, a little bit more than the rest. So then you got the Cathie Woods also all down. So everybody responding to I guess, to the PCE report. There's nothing else that I know that is impact in terms of news that's impacting. Let me just look right here to see. Inflation worries. Oh, they might be looking also at that consumer sentiment that I just told you about. That's probably having an impact as well as we look. The market started up kind of even, Steven, and then around 7 o'clock it did start going down. So the consumer sentiment numbers are probably impacting the stock market right now, and stocks are now starting to kind of bottom off a little bit. Who knows, of course, what will happen later in the day. Okay, let's go ahead in terms of how this is all hitting the bond market. The bond market is, like I said, I think actually smarter than the stock market. I've always said this. The people who play the bonds are smarter. They look more deeply into these things. The U.S. 10-year is down almost 10 basis points, 9.7 basis points, back down to 4.27, getting very, very close to my favorite number of recent, 4.25. It's got to get back under 4.25, and then we're going to crash back down into the threes. This is my expectation, has been for a long time, but as usual, this is just me. Know this about me. I'm usually right about the final result. I'm usually early in terms of my prediction, or in other words, it happens later than I expect. The 2-month is up 2.4 this morning, and the 2-year is down 6.6%. Okay, oil prices, last time I checked, were down. They're still down. We're down 41 cents, 69.51. So that's good. And there is still a $4 difference. The NASDAQ is down. I mean, sorry, I keep doing that. The natural gas number down 1.55%. Back, that trend back continuing. We're down to 3.865. Gold is up 24.70. I think there's a limit, but I don't know what's going on here. But we are now at 31.15, by far an all-time high, crazy all-time high. Silver now above 35 at $35.17, up 0.26 this morning. And copper continues its surge, up 0.68 at $5.15. Now, again, these are three of the commodities that the CNBC watches, that I watch, that everybody watches. But this is not the commodity index, okay? So there's a whole bunch of other commodities that are not going up in the same way. What happened to, here we go. And the Bitcoin has dropped by 3,101 to 84,144. So that is another piece of solid, good news. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I got distracted by a headline. I don't care whether Bitcoin goes up or down. I don't have it in my portfolio. But no, the Bitcoin is down 3,000 following the market as it has been recently, or following Tesla, as some people say. Tesla's down, therefore Bitcoin must be down. All right, so that tells us everything we need to know this morning. Tesla is bouncing up a little bit from its bottom this morning. We have got, I'm completely thrown off now. Larry Goldberg around 4 o'clock if things work out as normal, and then 7:45 it'll either be Phil Beisel or it'll be Brian White, and then reverse that for tomorrow morning. Whoever's not tonight will be first thing in the morning. A normal kind of programming over the weekend, probably a Brian Wong in there and all the other normal stuff. Like, subscribe, notify, all that. Just, last night, okay. Don't look at the Brian White video that we did last night. Brian Wong. That one has been completely obliterated by what I learned overnight. So what you want to do, look at last night, one of the best shows I've ever done, I think, with Bradford Ferguson. That one, I'll put the card up. A phenomenal, great philosophical analysis of a bunch of different stuff. I think you'll enjoy it. I totally enjoyed it. It was really, really a great show. Okay, that's all I got for you right now. Let's get on with the day. It's been great talking to you.